Hey everybody, welcome back to Rusty Wrench Restorations. Quick video today. Today we're going to replace the lift fuel pump on this John Deere 301A 300.5 tractor. So as you know, I bought this tractor, had a rough idle, wasn't running quite right. Not necessarily hard to start, but a little bit. Had some excessive white smoke. I changed the fuel filter in a previous video. We replaced all the fuel injectors or fuel nozzles. Yet again, another previous video. And I'm leaning more towards, I think there is in fact an issue with the fuel injection pump. However, this lift pump is what pulls a suction from the fuel tank and provides a good amount of, basically a lower pressure, higher volume of fuel to the injection pump. Once the injection pump receives that fuel from the lift pump, it basically meters the fuel to a point where you have a lower volume but higher pressure, much higher pressure, like 2500, 3000, 3200 psi. So it is possible that this pump isn't providing enough pressure to the injection pump. The injection pump is running out of fuel, starving fuel, and giving us that white smoke condition. Again, I was thinking white smoke. I possibly had a bad head gasket or a crack in the cylinder, but the oil is super clean. I don't see any bubbles in the radiator. I'm not losing any coolant. So not 100% ruling that out yet, but trying to go through this in a process that kind of makes sense. And by replacing these parts, yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but it's good assurance for me to know that they are new and in good working condition. So if I replace this lift pump, this is the new one I got here. It looks a little bit different. This one's from Steiner Tractor, and it doesn't change anything. No harm, no foul. It was like 40 bucks, maybe 50 bucks. I don't think that's a huge expense for something like this. And if it doesn't resolve the problem, then that means this pump's still good. So I can keep this one on the shelf and I'll have a spare in the event that for some reason this one goes bad. Because we all know that, and nothing against that company, I use Steiner Tractor for quite a few things. But you know, typically products nowadays just don't last as long as they used to. And this is, from what I believe, a original pump. So I will hang on to that. One thing, I really don't think this is going to resolve the problem. I do think it's an injection pump issue. And we'll get into that down the line in another video. Most likely I'll have to send it out to have it rebuilt, but I am going to try my hand in it. I've watched a few other YouTubers that didn't have prior fuel injection pump experience, and they were able to get it apart, fix some broken things, clean it out, and get it back running again for pennies on the dollar, right? So that pump to get rebuilt was between $700 and $800. And if I just needed them to send me a refurbished pump, you're looking at between $1,800 and $2,500. So even considerably more than I had originally thought. Again, I'm 99% sure it's an injection pump issue. Hopefully it's something I can resolve. Worst case scenario, if I take it apart and I don't fix it, or it's just a little too in-depth for me, really I'm not losing anything. I still have to send it to them to have them take it apart and rebuild it anyway. So I got out here. I don't think this is going to do much. However, there is a priming mechanism on this pump, and I'll show you that here in a second. So on the side of this pump, there's a little hand lever that's supposed to manually pump the lift pump to fill the sediment and bleed the system out. Now, I do realize that there is an armature in there, which you can see on this pump. Here's the arm. That rides against the camshaft inside the engine. So as that cam lobe goes around, it pushes on this lever and pumps this pump, just like an old-fashioned water pump, if you will. Anyway, this hand lever I thought was maybe pumping. I didn't really know how this worked, but it doesn't appear to be doing anything. So if I take this new pump, you can audibly hear that it's moving the arm and the diaphragm inside to actually move fuel. This one's doing nothing. So maybe this is the problem. Maybe the arm on here could just be sitting on the cam and it's not really letting me allow it to pump. Or maybe this is broken internally. I don't know. We'll see when we pull it off. But there is a lot of fuel. If you remember in the other video, I didn't shut off the fuel at the tank. So just the gravity head pressure, because this tank's full right now, was pushing fuel through this pump and to the filter. It took me a little while to get this filter to fill, and then it goes from here down on the other side to the injection pump. So it is a possibility, I guess, that maybe the lift pump isn't working. I don't know. I'm gonna stop yapping. We're gonna get this pump off and put the new one on and see if it makes a difference. And let's keep our fingers crossed. It'd be so sweet if it did. If not, it's all good. We'll end this video today. We're gonna check the injection pump timing in the next one, and then pull the pump and see if we can't fix it ourselves. I mean, if a man can build it, another man can unbuild it and rebuild it, right? Hey, why not? And when I say a man, I mean man as in human, because I know there's plenty of women mechanics out there that their skills far exceed mine. So don't take that the wrong way. I know I got some women viewers. My wife is my #1 advocate, and I know she could get out here and turn wrenches with the best of them. So anyway, so the first thing we're gonna do is shut off the fuel to the fuel tank, because we failed to do that last time. So in the front here, let me get my flashlight out. Shine a light in here real quick so you can see what we're looking at. So here's the bottom of the tank. Here's the fuel supply line to the lift pump, and you can see the little petcock valve here. So I don't know if I can shine, turn, and video, but we'll try. So basically this is gonna turn just like a faucet. Yep, not gonna be able to do it with the video. With the flashlight, let me shut it off here. You know, an octopus would make a great YouTuber. There's so many things going on at the same time. But anyway, and who's to say this valve will actually hold? I'm not lucky to leak by. All right, so the fuel cutout is shut off. And the next step is gonna be to remove the supply line to the fuel pump. And on the back here is the discharge line to the fuel filter. I'll put a bucket underneath. Obviously, it's probably going to make a mess. All right, first thing we're going to do is remove the supply line to the lift pump. This happens to be a 5/8 wrench. Comes off pretty easy. Got my drip pan underneath to collect anything that flows out. Not too bad. I also have a 9/16 here to hold the other side. It's always best to double wrench. This one came apart pretty easy, so. Then we'll remove the discharge line from the lift pump to the fuel filter. And just a reminder, because we're breaking the integrity of this system, we will have to vent and prime the fuel system again. Diesel engines don't like air at all. And sometimes if you have trouble getting off a line like this, you can always loosen it from the other end also. Might give you a little more play and flexibility. But just remember, the more you disconnect, the more you gotta reconnect. Alright, this one's about off. It's right at the end. You can always kind of wiggle these lines. That helps as well. Alright. There we go. It's off. Alright, next up, we're going to remove the pump. That's a, looks like, I think it's a 1/2 inch. There's 2 bolts that hold it onto the engine. And there's a gasket behind there, so we'll have to clean that mating surface and remove the gasket. Now as you loosen these pump bolts, you're going to see that the pump might start to push out. And that's simply because the cam is probably pushing on that arm of the pump. Alright, both bolts and the pump should just slide right out. Oh, I think I got a couple more threads on this one. There we go. Alright, pump comes out with the bolts. Alright, I'm going to see now. Let's see if I can get this in the frame so you can see it. I'm going to move this pump. Oh yeah, so there we go. You can see it squirts the fuel out. So this pump is working. And then this is the arm that the cam would use. So as I get diesel everywhere. So this pump is working. Maybe not quite to the capacity. I don't know. It's off. We're going to change it. So we'll remove the old gasket from the flange here, which is pretty stuck on there. So I'm going to go get a razor blade and we'll get that cleaned up. I am, however, in the meantime, going to put a rag here so that I don't have diesel fuel dropping into my crankcase and contaminating my oil. I'm looking at the lobe of the cam here, and it actually looks pretty worn. I'll get the camera here and zoom in on that and see if you can see that. But where that arm rides is pretty worn. Now there is quite a bit of spring pressure on there, so I guess it's inevitable. But yeah, I can feel a little groove on there. So maybe there was an issue with the pump after all. Hopefully you can see that in the video. I'll try to shine it in there. You can see it's got some grooves. Anyway, let's get the gasket off and cleaned up for the new one. Alright, I know the lighting's not the best. I've got a rag wrapped around that line going to the, pull this dipstick out for a minute. That line going up to the filter just to keep fuel from dripping in the crankcase here. Get a razor blade and we'll just remove this old gasket the best we can. Guess I should rephrase that. We're not going to remove it the best we can. We're going to remove it completely because we don't want any oil leaking out of here when it's running, which it will do. This gasket's been on here for a long time. I'd probably bet that it's original, but who knows. I'm going to get my wire wheel and clean this up. I'm OCD. I don't think it would matter, but if you're going to do a job, you might as well do it right. Now that's a clean flange. You know, might as well get it right. A little bit of gasket material on there could cause this new pump to leak, and I sure don't want to deal with that. So the next step is going to be to grab my new gasket. And again, this is just a paper gasket. There's no need to put any kind of sealant or lubricant or anything like that on there. What I am going to do is I am going to put a little bit of grease on the end of this arm, just so when I initially put it onto the cam, it has a little bit of lubrication. And yeah, we'll install the new gasket and new pump. And we're back. So you guessed it, the Lucas Red and Tacky as always. I probably don't need it, but anyway, so I got some grease on that arm, got the gasket on the correct orientation, and I'm gonna install both of my bolts, and we'll insert it back into the hole. If you have a hard time getting the pump in, it may be just because of the cam orientation, and you're going to be fighting against this arm. So if you need to, you can kind of manually bump the engine over to get the cam so that it's not in a position that's fighting against you. But I think we're going to be alright with this one. So as always, you want to get your bolts started by hand. Make sure we don't cross thread or strip anything. And then I'll get my extension. Kind of do the rest by hand here to get it tightened up. Pretty close to it. Alright, that's one side. Get the other one. And snug her down. If you're looking for the torque spec for this pump, you're looking in the wrong spot. Ain't gonna find it on this channel. Not for this part anyway. Head bolts, different story. Fuel pump, we use the old German torque, good and tight. Alright, I can remove this rag now. I can take these FME covers out of the pump. And it looks like I'm going to have to transfer the fittings from the old pump to the new pump, which is no big deal. It's just the 90-degree elbows. So I'll go ahead and yank those off, clean them up, and put them in, and we'll get the lines put back on. So we have the new fuel pump reinstalled. I'm at the front of the tractor here, turning the fuel supply back on from the tank. Definitely don't want to forget that. I did have to take the fuel pump back off again. Yeah, so the fittings, those 90-degree fittings on here, would not go on. Well, this outside one would have, but this inside 90-degree fitting, I couldn't get it started with the pump on. So I had to remove the pump. I put both fittings on, reinstalled the pump, and tightened up the supply and the return lines to and from the pump. So we're good to go. Everything's back in. I wiped everything down, put my dipstick back in. We got the fuel aligned. So I'm gonna keep my bucket underneath here and going to crack the vent on the fuel filter. And you can see there's already some fuel dribbling, but I'm gonna use this pump to prime the system. There we go. See, the other pump didn't even pump this good. You can see I've got good flow, no air bubbles, so we'll go ahead and tighten it up before I completely fill my starter with diesel fuel. And I think, just for good measure, one of these days I'm going to order some more of these plastic plugs, because I have a bad feeling that eventually I'm going to end up breaking one of them, and then I'm going to be stuck waiting on parts. So I'll look into it. I can't imagine they cost very much, and sometimes a $2 or $3 part I'd rather have sitting in my garage that I don't need than to be out in a field somewhere wishing that I had it. So I'll just get this all wiped down, and we'll go for a start, see if this makes a difference. I mean, I don't think it will, but I'm, again, no diesel expert. I only pretend to play one on YouTube. But I will say that the other pump had nowhere near that pumping action with the manual lever. So it could be that maybe the diaphragm in here was ruptured. You know, I mean, it's old. It's been sitting in diesel fuel for maybe 50 years, whatever, 40, 30 even. So maybe it was pumping, but just not quite the volume it needed. And the injection pump could have been just being starved of fuel. So, man, that would be a win for sure. So, all right, let me finish wiping this up and go start this thing and see what happens. I don't have high hopes for this, but I'm going to remain positive and think that this might just do it. It would be an amazing thing. So I'm going to see if I can't get this thing started without the starting fluid this time. Let's see what we got. Oop, needs a little spray. That's all right. Didn't fix it either. That's alright. I didn't think it would, but I now know that it's not that part. So typically don't recommend just throwing parts at something and see what works and what doesn't, but in this case, because of the cost of the injection pump rebuild, it's definitely the way we're going on this project. And there's so many unknowns with this thing as far as condition of the rest of the system that replacing the filter, the boost pump, and the injectors are all maintenance things that I feel needed to be done anyway. So at the end, not losing out. I'm gonna eventually end up having a perfectly fine fuel system in this tractor. So we'll go from there. So that's it for today's video. Next video, we're going to check the timing on the injection pump. It is possible that the timing is off. Scheduling the fuel wrong, fuel metering portion sending the wrong pressure, the wrong amount, the wrong time. If it is in fact timed correctly, which it most likely is, then we'll go ahead and pull the injection pump and start tear down. Like I said, I think I can handle it. I'm not going to change any of the calibration settings. We're basically going to do a meat and potatoes dismantle, look for any obvious signs of wear, breakage, problems, and do a thorough cleaning. And I'm hoping that might be enough just to get us back to where we need to be. And if not, no harm, no foul. We'll put it back together and send it off to get rebuilt by the guys who know what the hell they're doing. And I think that will resolve our problem. I don't think there'll be any other issues regarding the fuel system or engine running. I do have the head gasket kit and everything, so eventually maybe one day we might go through that just to do it. I know the exhaust does have a leak over here, and that kit has some exhaust gaskets, so we might roll with that too. But anyway, well, hope you learned how to change the boost pump on a 152 series John Deere diesel engine. And stand by for injection pump repair 101. And by no means is it going to be a tutorial of me showing you how to do it. It's pretty much just going to be a video documentary of me fumbling and flailing and possibly breaking things and making a lot of mistakes. So, but you know, that's part of the hobby with this. Sometimes you have to step outside of your comfort zone and take some risks and some chances, calculated risks and chances, mind you, and try new things, right? I mean, I think I'm fairly proficient with rebuilding carburetors for gasoline engines. And there was a time when I had never rebuilt a carburetor before. So sometimes you just got to throw yourself into the fire and hope you can get out before you get burnt. So I think we'll all learn a couple things in that next video, and yeah, we'll get this old girl running right. So until then, I appreciate you watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please continue to support the channel. I really do appreciate it. And for my longtime viewers, Jason, Pennsylvania, man, you've commented on every single video I've put up since last January. So we're on month 12, like I think 124, 125 videos, and this dude has yet to miss a beat to leave a comment. I do appreciate it. It does help the algorithm for getting the video out there more, into more viewers' hands, increases the views, increases the channel traffic, and ultimately helps me at the end of the day. So I do appreciate all the comments. It does not go unseen. I am able to reply back to most comments now because I don't have a lot of people commenting. So it's kind of cool to have that interaction with viewers. So anyway, hope you learned something. If you didn't, stand by for the next one, because we all gonna learn on the next one.